You're watching Badass Lady Folk. My name's Christine Stoddard, and this episode I have Kenia Munguia in the studio.
Woo!
Yeah, I love the guitar riff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm, rocking and rolling.
Perfect.
Thriving, surviving.
I just remember doing this. Do you know who Ali Wong is?
Yes.
I watched her special, and she's talked about how the only people who can do this are, middle-aged men, self-consciously, and I just did that. I'd never do that anywhere else, but here, I was like, this is where this belongs.
Felt like a safe space.
It felt like a safe space.
On that note, what made you feel safe enough to create art? Or am I assuming you even feel safe?
I should never feel safe.
What got you into art?
I just you leave college, you're 4 years, and you're supposed to have figured it out by the time you're 21, 22. And I felt way behind the pack because although I had a major declared, I don't like to leave things undone. If someone gives me an assignment, I'm going to complete it. How committed I am to that answer is it's no one's business, not even mine. So I did 4 years of international relations and history. And because I love a problem, I also did communications with a poli-sci bent to it. Because I've always been good at talking and reading, and I love to hear people talk about things they read. So I like people. But I wasn't passionate about it, so by the time I got out of college, I was like, great, I'm back at home with my parents, and I don't want to be a lawyer. I don't know what I want to be. And then, funnily enough, I was reading a book, and I tear through books all the time, and one of my guilty pleasures are anything having to do with the French Resistance. I'm like, I love me a romantic story. Let's just fight through a fascist regime together. And then I finished the book, and the book had a sticker on it that said, this will be made into a movie. And I was like, I would like to be in this movie. I never thought about acting before then, really, but for some reason I saw that sticker and I thought, this is a call to action. Let's go. And then I signed up for an acting class, and then I didn't stop. That's where I'm at, where I'm just and then the funny thing about this book is that it was never actually made into a movie.
I was going to ask.
No. It was never made into a movie. It still is in production hell, where it's kind of being floated around by different studios. And I remember during the pandemic, they mentioned that Elle and Dakota Fanning were going to play the lead characters. And I thought, that's unacceptable. And then it never happened either. So I'm still banking on that. That's my fuel as of right now. Yeah.
So what was it about that acting class that made you stay? Because people take classes all the time just to try something out. Right?
I'm also just built to not be a quitter. I'm just my mom refuses that bet to happen. I remember as kids, in our elementary school, we were part of this little kids NASA program where we would go to
NASA.
I know, but not I'm not science inclined. I was there for a vibe and the field trips. I was never a math. I love school person. I was I get field trips and I get snacks. I'm gonna go on this program, and they had this logo on the back of our little 7-year-old bodies that said, "Failure is not an option." So to be a 7-year-old and having that on your back emblazoned like a shield of honor versus my mom, with failure is not an option, throughout her entire life going into college. So when I started doing this acting class, I was like, I'm gonna get good. I've decided. I was not good. I wasn't shy, and I've never been shy, and I was very confident that I wouldn't make a complete ass of myself. But there's something about art that's freedom is the beauty of it.
Right.
Freedom of expression is the beauty of it. Anything that's too manicured, it loses its patina, and it no longer has that appeal that is what draws people to art repeatedly. And once I honed in on that, I was like, oh, art isn't so much a vocation so much as it is a life calling. You can only become a better artist by just continuing to live and experience new experiences and really pushing yourself to be as honest as possible. And so that's what hooked me, because I thought no matter what I do for a day job or what I do to pay my bills and keep my folks happy or keep me sustained and thriving, it's art can always be a vocation. It's something I have to do. And I would like to make money off of it too. No shade. I would love to do that, but it's interesting because it's beyond the monetary value.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle or spiritual practice. It's like you said, a calling.
Yeah.
Could you tell me about the teacher you had in that acting class or any acting class that's really someone who's really inspired you as an educator?
Yeah, my first acting teacher, her name was Amanda Reed. her name still is Amanda Reed. Which
Okay,
she's
thank
still with
goodness.
us. Like, she's still with us. But I loved her because she was in the trenches. Like, there were a lot of acting classes I audited, and the teacher hadn't acted in like 15, 20, 25 years. And I'm like, you got me tight. Like, what do you mean you don't know what IMDb Pro is? Like, what do you mean you don't know what Casting Network is? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? I studied with the greatest teachers, but they're dead and useless to me. So, but Amanda was constantly auditioning, going up for projects, seeing her prep for auditions, book jobs, being rejected by jobs was so informative because despite every rejection she faced, she was still in class Monday through Wednesday from 7 in the evening until 10 in the evening. And then that class was full of working actors too from like different levels. Like we had working actors, series regs, people who were up and running for like critically acclaimed projects that eventually came into fruition. So that was lovely and it was awesome. And it gave me a work ethic because I thought if these people are doing it all the time, I could also do it all the time. Like, there was no excuse to not continue to do this. It's not about success so much as your own personal ambition to get something done. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's so interesting that earlier you mentioned that motto, that child NASA motto about failure not
I'm an
being...
astronaut. I don't need to brag or anything. Part-time astronaut.
Failure is not an option, but we fail all the time as artists. Not necessarily in the sense of, oh, I'm going to stop doing this altogether, but we try something, we experiment, right?
Yeah.
So how do you embrace failure as an artist?
I feel like failure is just stopping. That's failure. I think you can be up for a job and not get the job, or you can put a lot of work into something and have it not develop the way you want it to, but that's not failure so long as you keep trudging forward.
Right. Yeah.
I think, and it's more admirable to hear about people's come up when they're so mired with different varieties and disguises of failure. Something that might be disguised as a failure today, Wednesday, can be a total success on Friday, and you don't even know about it because that's how the universe works. And I feel like humans in general, we're like cosmic jokes. Like we think we're in control of so much, but really we are just kind of floating around and like completely victim to our environment. Yeah.
All right, let's focus on success for a moment.
Ooh.
What is one of your favorite projects? You've done a fair amount of stage work in a short amount of time.
I love theater. If you want to see a failure, like in theater, is like, no, success? Like, what do you mean? Like, what it means to me?
A project that you've really loved, something that you felt like you successfully
Did.
did. I don't mean about fame and fortune or any of that. Oh, it got this review. I mean, sure, reviews are nice.
Yeah.
Sold out houses are nice. But
Yeah.
sometimes I know many artists do feel really satisfied by doing something and making it happen.
Yeah. I think sometimes I confuse success with validation. And those aren't one and the same. I think success for me is like a retrospective thing because when you're going through it, you know those days where you wake up at whatever time it is and from the minute you're conscious to the minute you are unconscious, it's like riddled with different Google Calendar colors and like you have to be at a certain place at a certain time and if the J isn't running at the right time, you're so fucked. But I think success to me just is like personal satisfaction. Like I gave everything and I feel like with theater, it's like that because film and TV, I fell out of love with it because it's so perfect.
Right.
It's you capture lightning in a bottle, which is something that a lot of directors and writers hype about when they see a performance. They're like, and she just had something. And you're like, well, when you take 43 takes of anything, you would hope.
Yeah. And when you have an editor.
And you have an editor who is a mastermind, you're going to get something beautiful. But I feel with theater, it's really up to the performer to like come on stage having a general idea of what's going to happen because you've blocked or whatever. But I remember in a play I did.
What was it called?
Mushroom. It's called Mushroom. Shout out Issa Davis. She was the playwright. She is a playwright. None of these people have passed. But like, I think what was incredible is like I went on stage that day expecting a very basic matinee show to come and go, nothing serious. We're nearing the final bit of this play. And I'm having an intense moment with a scene partner, and then I look up at the stands, and it's dark, you know, because you're blinded by the stage lights, and somebody's having a full-on, like, they stopped breathing completely. And I remember thinking, oh my God, like Knock 'em Dead, no longer funny. Like it's just like what's going on. And I remember in this mess of what was happening, people like 911 was called, like CPR was given. This guy eventually came to. It ended up not being anything serious. This kid apparently was suffering from sleep apnea, but he had no idea it was sleep apnea. So he just thought like he was seizing kind of thing. And I remember we rushed him out of there, and then the stage came back, the lights were back on, and we all kind of just resumed our places. And I thought, but we're still going to see this piece of art through. Like, I thought that was it was wild to me, because it was like someone who literally it was walked out of here, but we're gonna see this through. And that to me felt like a success for me that day, because I thought this could have been derailed.
Of course.
We could have stopped. And with every justification, but I left that play going, oh, that's what it's like to be a team. That's what it's like for everyone to stop and know exactly what they're supposed to do in that very moment. And then with him gone, we did the play, and then we had the second show, and it was incredible, because it's like, oh, this is exactly where we're supposed to be in that moment. And then we just carried on. And I thought that was incredible, because you can do so many plays and see so many of them from start to finish. And that one sticks out to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the play about?
Mushroom was incredible. It was about an ensemble of characters. I played this character named Edith, she was a DACA nurse. And, she starts helping people enlist an insurance and get their insurances cleared and everything's taken care of, but she's contending with the pressures of her mother, who is an undocumented immigrant. And then a friend of hers who's also undocumented gets wrapped up into, like, basically ICE raids the space. And it's kind of just like this fallout of these ensemble and how, like, immigration law affects the people who are most essential to us. And it's called Mushroom because they were all mushroom pickers in Malvern, Pennsylvania, which apparently is a hub for mushroom agriculture.
Yes.
So it was interesting, because it was the first time I'd done that's how I got my equity card. It was my first big girl play. And it was gnarly because it was so much community outreach. And I think that's also a thing about success too. It's not so much how you feel, but also the impact you see on other people. A huge dilemma of that play was how to get Latinx communities open to coming to see a play in a space where perhaps they're not normally accustomed to being welcomed in.
Right.
And I liken it to, if mom and dad are working from sun up to sundown, the last thing they want to do is go watch a play, because it's like, why would I do that? I have to dress up. Right. I have to go to a space that is white majority, white presenting. Maybe I don't feel comfortable in these scratchy pants, or this blouse is too tight. Do I do my makeup? Do I not do my makeup? It's these little mundane things that kind of translate into just a repellence towards going to theater. But with that play, there was so much advocacy on part of production to go to community centers to perform the play in snippets, just to kind of entice people to be like, oh, well, they speak in Spanish. They sing songs in Spanish. There's a musical number. Like, it's a play very much for our community, but it was a struggle of how to get that play to our community as well. Yeah.
I love that you mentioned outreach, because that's something that's so important, but as you said, it can be very difficult to accomplish.
Yeah.
So what are some ways that you think that art can bring communities together, and what are some tips that you have for people who might be interested in doing more of that?
Outreach?
Yeah.
That's such a massive question.
You can also say next question, please.
Move on, next. No, I think outreach is about connection, right? Because we all consume art.
Yeah.
And the accessibility of art is so fascinating to me, because with the internet, you have every bit of art at your fingertips. But I think something about art that I find interesting is that a lot of us only feel comfortable indulging in it when we feel like we kind of have some ownership over it. The way I could kind of feel like an imposter watching Japanese content or Korean content, and it makes me wonder, like, do I even have a right to be consuming this information and then exercising this newfound information in my everyday life? And I think with Latino communities specifically, there is a concept of what we're like versus what we are actually, but we're not a monolith, so you can't address us in the same way. But with art, I think it's not so much about having content that's for us. The content is there. It's just promoting it in a way where it doesn't feel farcical or stereotypical and sincere. I think that's the biggest problem with outreach. Because I love Latin Latino month, or what is it?
Yeah.
Hispanic
Hispanic
Heritage
Month, yeah.
I have a joke where it's like, oh, I'm getting more auditions. That's weird. Like,
so much attention now.
I'm getting so much attention from my reps. That's weird. But it's commercialized, and if someone who's in it can see how fabricated it is, someone who's watching it can also sense how fabricated it is. And I think it's nuts to implore that a community is important for a month, and then it's on to the next consumer fixation, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
How do you think your studies in international studies, politics, communications relates to what you're doing today? Because I think it does. But I want to hear your connections.
Yeah. I'm just not intimidated to do research.
Good.
I think that's like my big thing. Like, it's just like when I get something really meaty, I love more than anything just time to dive in and be like, oh, why does this character think this way? How much money does this character's parent make? Like, what's that like? What's their socioeconomic status? I feel like that framework really helps me dive into it in a more realistic way versus like, I don't know, like, she loves the color blue. I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't help me. But no, I think it makes me make every character I play human, because this person has a routine, and this person has things in their life or people in their life that make them feel safe. And I think having that background, I can kind of formulate it a little bit better. Yeah.
What stories do you want to be a part of, or what kinds of projects do you want to do more of?
I have a problem with talking about a dream role because I don't have them.
But I didn't say dream role.
I know, but I'm thinking about that. Like, I'm just like, what is like, but it's like, I would love to be part of projects where you don't expect to see me there.
Okay.
Because the reality is, we're in every project.
You could be
narrative.
anywhere.
I can be anywhere at all times. I'm like just popping up. But I would love to be in an espionage movie, circa like James Bond. That would be me. Like, I'd love to be a little like, maybe she's a femme fatale. Maybe she's a tech nerd. We don't know until she busts out the like gun and just starts like obliterating people. I don't know. Like, I would love a project like that where it's like, oh, that was a choice. You know, like, I would love that. Like, to people, oh, that was crazy. Like, why did we do that? Or I would love a sitcom where it's like, it is, again, just an ensemble of characters, very much like a play where everyone is very much a thing. But it's like your racial identity isn't necessarily a factor. Like, I feel like that conversation can sometimes get tired because we've been trying to use it for so much. Yeah.
Do you feel, because of this exhaustion, do you ever feel like there are parts of your identity or your family that you just don't want out in the open, that you...
Yeah, I think with social media, it's so fascinating. My profile's public.
Yeah.
I don't like Kenia _Munguia. Like, no, but it's public because I think it's such an interesting study. Like, it's my own personal case study where how much of myself do I reveal truly versus how much of it is just acting and art based. Because some things are very private and close to heart, and the last thing you want to do is have too many cooks in the kitchen where people's opinions start affecting you and your work and the things you do and the things you care about. That's really scary because I feel like it's hard enough to make a decision on your own without other people chiming in, but then you also have to oddly reveal that bit about yourself because you are an artist and you're kind of like, you're like essentially a sketch pad for humanity as an actor, assuming, you know, that's what you want to do, but you want people to identify with you because when they see something on screen or on stage, you're kind of like a vehicle of what if for this person. What if this thing happened to me? Do I agree with how this person did this thing? And in a way, that kind of transparency is necessary, but not too necessary. Yeah.
Yeah, that word authenticity comes up in social media marketing all the time. And then it also comes up in art, but in a different way. So I'm curious about how you balance that.
I think it's hard to be authentic because you're also very manicured.
Yeah.
I look at a headshot and I'm like, this is a great picture of me on a very good day. Like, there's 3 people working on me at all times and an editor, you know. And I always find it hard when you get feedback like, oh, we want something that presents you as you. Like, you are the most sellable thing about you. Like, the thing that makes you unique is you. But then you actually show up as yourself, and then you get stripped down in school, ripped apart, and then put back together in like this Frankenstein of academia and art and consumerism. And then you're like, oh, why don't I know who I am anymore? So it's hard to be authentic because the things that you perhaps love the most about yourself are not viable to somebody. And then you have to start kind of shrinking into yourself a little bit and start wondering, why am I not valuable? Or why is this part of myself not? I love this part about me, but why don't other people? And I think that's what I mean about the cooks in the kitchen, because authentic self, I'm not my authentic self, but there also has to be a barrier of protection as well, because in the event that I'm too authentic and I give something up that I wasn't quite ready to have subject to criticism, then I'm just miserable, and I'm dealing with the fallout of that. Yeah.
Okay. Misery.
Misery as a whole.
So how do you manage your mental health as an artist?
I have other things that give me my value as a person. Yeah. Which is hard because there's nothing quite like the high of doing something really great as an artist, and you're like, I'm the best thing ever. Like, who's Picasso? Not me, you know? But it's hard because I don't know about you, but for me, it's like when I'm obsessed with a piece of art, it is all consuming.
Yep.
And I'm in it. I am like elbows deep. Nothing else matters. I won't eat. I'm not hanging out with friends. I'm like fully on this thing. And then I look up, but then I think I've been so fortunate that I always remember just in time that I'm neglecting certain things in my life that I shouldn't. And I remember, or I try to remember regularly, like, oh, hey, like, this person makes me really happy, and they don't care if I book or don't book.
Right.
My family thinks I'm great, regardless of what I do with my life. Maybe I should invest some time with them. But the only thing that keeps me in check is journaling, exercising, which is really boring and basic, but like it's like those things matter. Like, even when you have a day that's jam-packed, like giving yourself 15-30 minutes like on an iPhone timer, just like for 30 minutes you're doing nothing but just being yourself and reflecting on today or some dream you had that you're like, this is crazy. Why did I dream I was a barrel of cheese? Like, why
is that a dream you've had?
It's a dream I've had some weird. I had a dream once that like a dog was. I was like, I don't know what it means, but I think about it all the time. Like, I had like this dream that this dog was on its front legs and it was looking right up at me and it spoke to me in perfect English. And to this day, I think animals that talk are crazy. That should not be allowed. What's going on? So yeah, dreams. I don't know what it meant, but I'm like, your dreams mean something. So you have to like journal them or whatever. Yeah.
Do you ever consider, because I did some snooping and I did see some writing in your life, writing in your background. Is that something that you've considered taking into a performance realm in New York City?
No, totally. I've been thinking about it a lot more recently just because I haven't seen anything that really lights me up quite as much. And I think to a point I have to take responsibility for that too. It's like, if I can, why don't I? But then I also love having that skill for other people's stories. It's mostly editing now, which people like will send scripts to me and I'll see them and I think, oh, that's kind of great or that's not great, or maybe we should look at it this way or that way. And then as an actor too, it's useful because you see a bit of writing and you're like, I know where this vein is going. I just don't think they quite communicated it as well. But no, I love writing and I would love to do it more regularly. But the thing that I love most about art is that it's all consuming. And for me, acting is all consuming.
Right.
Writing is just the thing I can do. But acting is the thing I lose my head over. And for me personally, it's like that's like the most beautiful thing about being a human, where you're like, I have no control over how this goes and how this plays out. But I want to do more of that. Yeah.
Huh. So we are recording here in October, and I'm saying this because somebody could be watching this 6 months from now, even a year from now. What are some hopes and dreams and plans for, evergreenish future?
Oh my gosh.
Not next week.
I know, right? Next week would be great. No, I'm going to London for my birthday, which is in a week.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I think your birthday is like a day after mine or a day
I'm
before.
November 6th.
November 5th.
Yay, Scorpios.
Woo, Scorpio season. Here we go. I'm I'm going to London kind of like as a pilgrimage of sorts, just to kind of go back to where I first got the bug for creativity, period, just because art is accessible in different countries in a way that it's not here. And I feel like in 6 months' time, I'm going to be riding that high into some sort of production. It's not even booking, it's just to be continuously inspired, because I'm happy where I'm at currently. And I would love to just continue working at what I do. I'm not miserable. I'm just wondering what the next thing is going to be.
Yeah,
and just staying
yeah.
ready for it. Yeah.
So in between projects, what do you do?
I'm passionate about a day job. I love stability, let me tell you. No, I've worked a series of day jobs. I've worked just about every day job you could think of, minus bartending and waitressing, because I don't like to get yelled at. But ironically, I still get yelled at other day jobs because people be crazy. No, but I'm passionate about a day job. In my first acting school that I went to, there was this great, I guess, like seminar I attended that said that your day job is your angel investment.
Ooh,
and I thought that was beautiful.
I love that.
Right? I think about that all the time because I think so much of acting really isn't so much. I feel like when you do book something, it's almost a vacation. You once again remember you're an actor and you have a credit to add to your resume. But I feel like in the in-between times, it's how you take care of yourself really shows in the work that you do, because you're not desperate to do the first thing that people throw your way. You're not desperate to comply to a director or producer's demands that you might not be in line with. That level of desperation is taken off because you are taking care of yourself. And still somehow finding that flexibility to be able to audition or do whatever. So I'm really passionate about a day job. Like, there was that book, Real Artists Don't Starve, that I think is excellent, because I think you can have a full life. You are an artist whether you are booked and busy or you are just in an everyday day job. So I've done everything from like legal writing to call centers for COVID help. I've worked at pop-ups where I'm like selling random stuff and going to people and buy this thing, please. Or I've worked in hospitality most recently, just because I like what that has done for me. But at the end of the day, the priority is always art. So I've left these jobs like many a time. I don't think twice about quitting. I'm just like 2 weeks and I'm out of here. Like
thanks, bye.
Bye, like my dream is calling. But I think that's great, because it's just like when I am working at a day job, I'm also trying to find ways to be financially savvier. So when I do have to be away, I'm like, okay, I've got this job and hopefully it pays enough, but I still have a little cushion. So when it is over and I'm not immediately rolling into the next thing, I have something to help me. Because I feel like stability is so critical.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to be creating, like you need that like sense, that home base. It's not a physical home base, it's like a mental and emotional home base. And if that's sacrosanct and protected, everything else is frosting.
Well said. Thank you, Kenia. Yeah. That is all the time we have, folks. You've been watching Badass Lady Folk. I'm your host, Christine Stoddard. Until next time, bye.